Did you know that 10% of Americans ranging from 18 to 37 say they routinely leave no tip? And nearly one third leaves less than 15% according to creditcards.com. Did you know that the average hourly pay for a waiter is between $2 to $12, with the overall average being $7.02? As of today, October 13th, 2020, the minimum wage pay in Maryland is $11 an hour. Now you may ask, why do waiters get paid an average of $7.02 if the minimum wage is $11 an hour? Well, tips are the main source of income for waiters. So what they make in tips become added to their overall pay. It makes up to $3.58. And if waiters don't make over the minimum wage, their employer pays the difference. Me personally, I work in the food industry, and I make most of my money through tips as well. So I feel qualified to speak upon this topic because myself relies heavily on what the tips I make. Today I'll persuade you about why you should begin tipping every time you go to a restaurant or a place where people serve you. There are many reasons why you should and very few reasons why you should not. So today I'll tell you those reasons and hopefully persuade you to start tipping. Okay. So, as a 19-year-old living in the United States, tipping has been a part of my life ever since I was born. It has been a part of American culture since the 1800s. Time gives a simple story of how tipping became into America. They say from European travelers that just brought the custom to America. They also say that the main believed origin is from wealthy Americans in the 1850s and 1860s discovered a tradition which had originated in the medieval times as master serfs custom, wherein a servant will receive extra money for doing a superbly well job. Also, after the Civil War, when slavery was ended, there was not much options for work. So most people became servants, waiters, barbers, railroad workers, and the jobs had to catch. Employers would not pay the workers, assuming that the guests that came in would offer a small tip. Also, for a time in the early 1900s, tipping was banned practice in the United States, most specifically in Georgia and Iowa. But the idea stuck, and it's still here today. So now that you understand the history of tipping in the United States, let's discuss why you should start tipping in the first place. Tipping is not mandatory in the United States, but why should you do it? So most restaurants do not abide by the federal minimum wage in 43 states, including Maryland. Servers have a harder job than you think. Besides taking orders and serving food, they have to clean bathroom, tables, cut fruit, make coffee, sweep. And after the restaurant closes, they have to clean, roll silverware, wash dishes. Servers also need to tip out at the end of their shift. And if you don't know what tipping out is, this means when the servers give percentages of their tip that they made in their night to the bartenders who receive generally 17% of the tip, or the busboys who make 20% of the tip. And when a server tips out, they leave their shift with only 58% of the tips they made in that whole entire night. So when you think about it, when a waiter makes no tips at the end of their shift, they only make $11 an hour, which is enough to have a good meal, but not enough to sustain themselves. And this information was given by gentlemanbox.com. So, since I gave you this information about tipping, why should you do it? Like, what's the justification to tip? Like, why do people not tip? Many people do not tip. And I'm also sometimes guilty of this. But there's justifiable reason why one does not tip someone. One of the biggest reasons is that people don't tip is because of terrible service. A lot of people have probably got a bad waiter before with an attitude and getting the order wrong. Trust me, everybody has. But you should take account that that person is going through something and everybody's had a bad day here or there. So it shouldn't mean that you just don't tip them. Like I said before, waiters rely on the tips they make. So even if you have bad service, tip 10%. If you're not tipping the waiter, you're not just tipping a waiter, you're tipping everyone that's helping bring your food into fruition and helping you have an enjoyable experience. Also take into account there's such things as bad bosses, and many times they take out their frustration on the workers, and those workers relay that attitude onto their serving. But if the food sucks, the performance is bad, and you get your food out late and so on, I believe you should still tip. And if it's just that bad, just don't come back again. So we talked about why you should tip and why people don't, but still should. Now let's discuss how you can get started and become a great person in society and start changing lives. How do you get started tipping? Well, the answer is very simple. Start tipping. I know many people are on a budget, but the general rule of thumb for tipping is 20%. So if your order is $10, you're tipping $2. Also, if you get called into a place for example, the bill is $45 and you're tipping 20%, round up to the nearest tenth and make the tip overall $10. Now, another thing when tipping is not all companies take credit tips, so make sure you always keep loose change around, just in case you run into a scenario where the company only takes cash as a tip. And coming from honesty, if you have a friend who doesn't really tip, persuade them to do so, because it's not just an optional service, but people's livelihoods as well. Now that you learned about tipping and the process of everything around it, tipping is a special thing we have in America that makes our service adequate at restaurants that we go to. We should try our best to uphold the good standards of tipping. In conclusion, today I talked to you about why you should start tipping. It is a great practice and very few countries have, and we should embrace it. Oh, yeah, well, okay. We have discussed the history behind tipping in the United States and what is thought of as general origin of it. We also looked over why you should tip and be mindful for the waiters and their generosity. Now you should try to give good and how they try to give good service. So you should, in response, offer a good tip. And why people do not tip and the reasons behind it, and outwardly just trying to be generous and still tip anyway if you have bad service. Overall, I hope I persuade you to think about this topic. And if you run along a place where you should tip, think about the simple reasons I gave to you today. Thank you. Have a nice rest of your day.